Okay. Good morning. Today we'll have a discussion on operative surgery steps. Dr. Dhitiman Mitra, who is Associate Professor of Surgery at Calcutta Medical College, he will moderate this session. So Dr. Milind will present. So we'll go as you go in the exam. So in exam, you have a good amount of marks being allotted for a operative surgery step description. So stick to the operative description, and then as the examiner stops, you can answer his queries. Okay. Didiman, please, we can continue. We'll have discussion on TAPP, TEP steps, and then a minor surgical case of eversion of sac.
Okay, sir. Should I
Yeah, just
start speaking?
as the exam goes.
Okay, so we will ask him questions, right?
Let him start how we describe the steps of uh, a TAPP operation, maybe the indications and then the actual steps.
So, good morning, Milind.
Good morning, sir.
So, you will be asked to pick up a card sometimes. Suppose
Yes.
you have picked up a card, laparoscopic hernia surgery.
Yes, sir.
The first is, what are the different types of laparoscopic hernia surgery?
So there are two types of laparoscopic hernia repair. First is TAPP, that is transabdominal preperitoneal laparoscopic hernia repair, and second is a TEP, that is totally extraperitoneal laparoscopic hernia repair.
In current scenario, what are the contraindications of such surgery, if at all, if any?
Sir, the absolute contraindication would be only one, that is the intolerance of the patient to general anesthesia. Relative contraindications would include a person who has undergone extensive preperitoneal space dissection, such as in the case of a lower abdominal wall surgery, an incarcerated inguinal hernia, presence of ascites, or sir, a lower previous history of lower abdominal wall surgery.
It is said that Lichtenstein repair has very low recurrence and it is easy to learn. In spite of that, you tell me some indications where you will prefer laparoscopy over open surgery.
Sir, if there is bilateral hernia, if there is if recurrent hernia is been there, so then we would prefer laparoscopy.
How do you classify recurrent hernias according to Nyhus classification? Or which group does it go in?
Sir, type group 4, sir.
Right. So recurrent hernias, especially those which have been, suppose it is a recurrent hernia which has already been treated with TAP or TAP. So there will you do TAP or TAP again?
No, sir.
So recurrent hernia which has been treated by an open technique
Open
or an anterior approach.
Anterior
There you
approach.
will prefer a TAP or TAP technique.
Yes.
Okay. So now you have said bilateral hernia is an indication for laparoscopic hernia. You can use both the techniques for bilateral, but which procedure would be preferred for bilateral hernia?
Sir, transabdominal preperitoneal would be preferred for bilateral. Yes. Sir, because we'll be able to completely visualize the anatomy before we place the mesh, and a single mesh can be placed. Two separate meshes can also be placed, but a single
mesh or two different meshes?
Sir, two separate meshes, sir.
If you put a single,
hello,
what will have in the midline? What counter cells, the space of Red Sea, space of August, all those are there. Then medial dissection around the corona mortis, you have to continue from one side to the other, na? For
yes,
like
sir.
if you are doing for a single mesh.
Yes,
so you want to avoid all that. So it is better to do
two meshes.
Put two different meshes and to the area. Now coming to that, what will be the position of the patient as you start the operation?
Sir, as we start the
anesthesia
operation,
required is general anesthesia.
General anesthesia.
Anesthesia required is general anesthesia. You already told.
Yes. One point.
Sir.
The point is, if you now go to the current recommendations, earlier I discussed last day also. Earlier it was said that if you have unilateral hernia, the answer first should be Lichtenstein repair. But if you go to the current recommendation, now even for a unilateral hernia, the first recommendation is a laparoscopic repair, which is either a TEP or TAPP as the surgeon preference goes. So even for unilateral hernia, you can opt for doing a laparoscopy repair, because the evidence has come up that this is a better way of hernia management in contrast to Liechtenstein. But again, patient has some other contraindication, that is a different. But again, for unilateral also, you can opt for doing a hernia. Yes. Start.
Yes, sir.
So anesthesia is general anesthesia. I've
Yes.
already told. What will be the
Yes.
position of the patient as you start the
So
operation?
initially, it will be supine position.
Okay. So what will be the port placement? How do you create
Sir,
pneumoperitoneum? Will you create pneumoperitoneum in TAP?
yes, sir.
How do you create pneumoperitoneum? And what is
Sir,
the port?
in case of TAP, sir, we'll give a 10 mm infraumbilical incision. We will introduce a Veress needle through this incision, and we will confirm the position of the Veress needle, whether it is in the peritoneum space
How
or
do you
not.
confirm? How do you confirm whether the
Sir, we can do this through either through a drop method or by injecting 5 ml saline. If we inject 5 ml saline and then we try to reaspirate, if it is in the peritoneum, it will not come back. The drop method is we put a drop at the end of the needle, and if we lift the abdomen, the drop will be sucked. So then once the Veress needle is introduced, we will create the pneumoperitoneum at 12 millimeters of mercury with the initial flow rate of 1 liter per minute, which can later be increased. Once this pneumoperitoneum is introduced, we will do the port placement. 3 ports will be placed. First will be the 10 mm port, which will be placed in the infraumbilical area through a gentle rocking movement. 2 other ports, which are 5 mm ports, will be placed. They will be placed at the level of the umbilicus, laterally, lateral to the rectus sheath, in the right and the right and the left lower quadrant, ensuring that we do not damage the inferior epigastric vessels.
any other modifications for port placement you can use, especially for
Sir, what we can do is that the port that is not on the side of the hernia can be placed a little lower, so that the surgeon has more space to maneuver.
ergonomically better sometimes, depending on the abdominal size of the abdomen, the contour. So you have entered the peritoneum. So first step is you will.
Sir, identify the anatomy.
Yeah.
Sir, we will delineate the.
We look for initially.
Sir, we look for the median umbilical ligament, the medial umbilical ligament, and the lateral umbilical ligament.
What are the contents of these 3 structures?
So the median umbilical ligament contains the obliterated urachus, the medial umbilical ligament contains the obliterated umbilical artery, and the lateral umbilical ligament is the peritoneal reflection of the interior epigastric artery.
So with respect to these 3 ligaments, how do you classify your hernia?
Sir, lateral to the lateral umbilical ligament would be the indirect hernia, and medial to the lateral umbilical ligament would be the direct hernia.
So direct hernia was previously, like when we used to approach from anterior, the direct hernia used to be classified into 2 types: medial direct hernia, lateral direct hernia, with respect to the position with the obliterated umbilical vein, which is a content of the medial umbilical ligament. So now what they are saying is between the lateral umbilical ligament and the medial umbilical ligament, if there is a hernia, you will call it direct hernia.
Direct hernia.
That corresponds with the previous classification, with the lateral direct hernia of the anterior classification. Yes. And the medial direct hernia that used to be, we used to refer to, is now renamed as supravesical hernia.
Supravesical.
Okay, so, and you will also identify whether, you will see whether, gut is entering into the.
Yes, sir, if the orifice gut is entering into the orifice,
and you will also identify the major vessels over there. And then you have to put what do you do? Next step? Surgical.
So we can put a tacker at these places
to put an incision first. No? You put an incision.
Yes.
Where do you put the incision?
Sir, we put the incision 3 to 4 centimeters above the inguinal ligament and 2 centimeters medial to the anterior superior iliac spine.
So and medial extent?
So medially we horizontally extended up till the medial umbilical ligament, post which we extended cranially.
Okay. Then after that, how do you raise the peritoneal flaps?
Sir, after that, sir, we posteriorly raise the flap by continuous traction and blunt and sharp dissection to open the preperitoneal space. And
What energy devices could you use in this raising of peritoneal flaps?
pardon, sir?
What energy devices or instruments do you use for raising these peritoneal flaps? Suppose you are using scissors without any, energy source. There could be
Yes.
bleeding. To avoid that, what can
Yes,
you
sir.
use? You can use bipolar scissors, or
Yes.
you can use harmonic by
Yes.
raising the flap. Okay. Now, after you have raised the flap, what is the medial extent of dissection? What is the lateral extent of dissection?
So medially, the flap is raised up till the symphysis pubis. Laterally, it is raised up till the iliopsoas muscle, and below it is raised up till the obturator foramen.
So, what is the symphysis pubis? What appearance of the symphysis pubis during laparoscopic surgery? How do you identify that you have reached the symphysis pubis?
So, the bladder will be visible.
It
So the space of ridge.
it is called the lighthouse of the. It is called the lighthouse of the of that region, and it appears as a shiny white structure. And by trying to indirectly have a feel of it with your hand instrument, you can feel the bony appearance. Okay. So medially up to the symphysis pubis. Now, what do you do to the Cooper's ligament?
So we have to.
What is the Cooper's ligament first? What is the Cooper's ligament?
Sir, it is an extension of the inguinal ligament that after the inguinal ligament continues as the lacular ligament and then reflects back over the pecten pubic ramus and pecten pubis as the Cooper's ligament.
So the Cooper's ligament has to be separated from.
Is properly separated, and the area above it has to be properly delineated.
Delineated, it has to be separated from the symphysis pubis medially, and then continue laterally up to the external iliac vein.
Vein, yes.
And laterally, you are continuing up to the ASIs. Now,
Yes,
suppose you have raised the flaps. What is the triangle of doom? What is the triangle of pain?
So the triangle of doom is an area bounded laterally by the testicular vessels, medially by the vas deferens, and
the vessels of the spermatic cord.
Vessels spermatic cord, medially by the vas deferens, and the third boundary is made by the line joining both of them, or the peritoneal reflection. The contents of the triangle.
Where is the apex? Where is the apex?
So the apex would be just below the deep inguinal veins.
Deep ring. Yeah.
Deep ring. The content is the external and the internal iliac vessels. The triangle of pain.
Is there any nerve in triangle of doom? You try to remember which structures enter the deep inguinal ring apart from these things.
Genital branch of the genital femur.
Yeah, so that will be there, and also sometimes it will encounter the femoral nerve there in the triangle of doom. So triangle of doom not necessarily is just a vascular triangle as we kind of refer to it. It could also
neurovascular
have some nerve. Okay. Now coming to the triangle of pain.
So triangle of pain is bounded medially by the spermatic vessels. Laterally, it is bounded by the iliopubic tract, and
what is iliopubic tract?
So the iliopubic tract, sir.
What is iliopubic tract?
Sir, it's an iliopubic tract is an eponeurotic extension from the ASIS to the pubic tubercle, lies on the upper edge of the inguinal ligament.
So basically, it is the posterior surface of the fascia transversalis and the it is posterior surface. So it will remain more or less anterolateral.
Yes. And the third boundary is
reflection.
Yes. And the third boundary is formed by the peritoneal reflections.
Yeah. Okay.
And this triangle contains the. Yes, sir.
Triangle contains.
So the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh, the anterior cutaneous femoral nerve of the thigh, sometimes the femoral nerve, and inguinal inguinal branch of the femoral branch of the genitofemoral.
So, and what is corona mortis?
So corona mortis they are abnormal connections between the obturator artery and the inferior epigastric or the external iliac vessels. They are usually found around the area of the Cooper's ligament, and they can lead to torrential bleeding while dissecting in this area.
Other name for this? Or
Corona
another
mortis.
landmark? Circle of death. Circle of death and corona mortis are loosely referred to the same, you know.
Okay.
And it is formed by this circle of death specifically is formed by the common iliac, the internal iliac, obturator, inferior epigastric, and external iliac. This is the boundary. And then within this boundary, there will be abnormal communications between the obturator and the inferior epigastric, as you have said. So maybe the contents are called corona mortis, and the boundary is called circle of death. So what is the surgical or clinical significance of this?
Sir, while placing the mesh, these two triangles come towards the lower edge. We have to ensure that we by mistake do not put a suture or a tacker here, because if they impinge on the triangle of doom, it will lead to bleeding, and if they impinge on the triangle of pain post-operative, it will lead to chronic pain. So the lower edge we should be very careful when placing a suture or a tacker.
What do you do to the sac?
Sir, if it's a direct sac, then while we are raising the flap of the peritoneum, the direct sac is usually we are able to dissect it and reduce it at the same time. If it is an indirect sac, sir, we see that whether it is a complete sac or an incomplete sac. In case of an incomplete sac or the sac is small, we can distally we can separate it up till dissect it up till the fundus, and proximally we dissect it up till the point where the vas deferens and the spermatic vessels separate, and we can reduce the sac. In case it is a complete sac, then we do not
dissect the peritoneum. We dissect the peritoneum from these contents of the spermatic cord for about 4 centimeters, so that the peritoneum does not hug back the structures. Okay.
Yes.
And if it is a big sac, what do you do to the distal part? Do you try to reduce the entire sac?
No, sir, we don't reduce the entire sac. We separate the sac, and the proximal part we tie up. The proximal part is basically separated, and
you can either cut and tie with an endo loop, and sometimes staplers can be used to also.
And the distal part is left open. The distal part of the sac is left open to prevent hydrocele or any collection. Serum.
And hydrocele of the hernial sac. Okay. So what kind of mesh do you use?
So we can use a polypropylene mesh, sir.
We can use, we always use polypropylene.
We use polypropylene.
So if you are using polypropylene mesh, what should you be careful about? Or rather, what do you do to the peritoneal flaps next?
After placing the mesh, we have to ensure that we have to close the peritoneal flap, because the mesh should not come in contact with the viscera or any of the peritoneal.
If you are using polypropylene mesh, there is a chance of that getting
adhesion
stuck with the intestinal structures. So this peritoneal flap must be, you must ensure it. What is the current evidence regarding fixation of mesh in TAP procedure?
Sir, we should sir, current evidence. I'm not sure.
The current most guideline key tag kora uchit to.
If you do TAPP, yes, always TAPP have to tag. But sometimes in TEP, there are a lot of people still say that in TEP you may not avoid. TAPP should fix the mesh, and fixation should not be too much. It should be one. How do you fix the mesh?
How do you fix the mesh?
By 2 tackers, sir, one on the Cooper's ligament and one on the anterior abdomen. Medially on the Cooper's ligament, anteriorly on the anterior abdomen.
Yes, you don't need
while you are putting the tackers, while you're putting the tachus, how do you make sure that it is not impinging on some deep structure? Do you
So
try to palpate the tip of the tacking device through the anterior abdominal wall to make sure that it
it's
is
not impinging on any structure.
any intervening structure or any
Yes.
deep structure?
Yes.
Uh, so you have tacked and now you have closed the peritoneal flap. So what are the sutures that you can use for closure of the peritoneal flap?
So for closure of the, we can use Prolene. So we can use Prolene to
With Prolene or the conventional sutures, you have to tie a knot. If the surgeon is not comfortable in tying a knot, they can use barbed sutures or V-lock sutures, which are like once you have taken a bite and
Yes, sir.
progressed, these sutures don't recede. So you
Okay,
don't
sir.
have to tie a knot. So these are barbed sutures or V-lock sutures.
Okay.
So if you're not comfortable in tying a knot, you can use these also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what other procedure could be done for hernia by a transperitoneal approach
By transperitoneal.
without having
Done
to
earlier,
raise
but
the,
not favored much nowadays.
without raising the peritoneal flaps. Suppose there is pre-peritoneal adhesions and you are not comfortable doing an anterior procedure, you are comfortable with lap, you have gone inside the abdomen. Is there any other procedure
So I'm not
not
sure.
done nowadays much? It is an IPOM procedure, intraperitoneal onlay mesh.
On way measure.
You can just inspect the contents, reduce the contents, and on the deep ring or the myopectineal orifice of Fouchard, you just put in a mesh. But that mesh has to be what kind of mesh? If you are inside the peritoneum, it has to be a
biological mesh or biological mesh.
a dual or
Or a
composite mesh.
dual mesh, composite.
Dual mesh, what is the advantage? One surface is polypropylene.
The other surface
surface
is
is either painted with something like oxidized regenerated cellulose or some absorbable suture so that the gut does not
get adhesion. There is no adhesion.
so that the gut does not adhere. Now coming to tape, what is the position of the patient?
Sir, tapes are same. Initially, the position is supine. And after creating the pneumoperitoneum, the patient is put into a Trendelenburg position.
Pneumoperitoneum per se in tape. You're not going inside the peritoneum.
Yes, sir, sorry. After creating the preperitoneal space, after dissection, we can make the patient Trendelenburg with the site of the hernia slightly elevated.
What are the positions of the port?
Sir, in case of TEP, the first port is made. So the first is intraumbilical port, which is a 11 mm port. The second port is
see, nowadays these
11.
headless disposable trocars are there, na? 12, 10, 11 different sizes are there, and they don't have valves.
Okay,
they don't have valves. They do not have a hub or valves. I mean,
okay,
you can put in any size instrument, even a 5 mm instrument. You don't need a reducer. Okay, you can just put in.
So the first port through which the camera will go will be the infraumbilical port. Then the second port is a 5 mm port, which is about 1 centimeter above the symphysis pubis, and the third
you
port.
create all the ports at the start of the surgery itself?
No, sir. Sir, the second and the third port is under direct vision. After the first port,
created the first port. How do you create the space?
Sir,
first you tell me how you reach the space and then how you create.
Sir, we give an infraumbilical incision about 1.5 centimeters.
We make incision.
We make an incision 1.5 centimeters. We reach the anterior rectus sheath, which we incise. We go deep where the rectus abdominis. We laterally separate the rectus abdominis from the linea alba. We come to the space between the rectus abdominis muscle and the posterior rectus sheath. Here we can either, sir, we can do blunt dissection or we can insert a
posterior rectus sheath in the infraumbilical region. Do you find posterior rectus sheath?
No, sir.
No. So you
Yes.
don't
Yeah,
reach,
it is there up to
you
the
reach the surgical preperitoneum.
Use surgical preperitoneum, and we insert the balloon trocar there.
Inframumbilical, you will have the posterior sheath up to the arcuate line.
Arcuate.
The
Below the
midway
arcuate
between
line, you
the
don't have.
up to the arcuate line, you will have posterior sheath. Beyond that, you will not have posterior sheath.
Posterior, yes. So, sir, we insert the balloon trocar and we inflate the balloon trocar, which creates the initial preperitoneal space. This we can remove and then insert the.
If you do not have balloon trocar, then what can you do?
Sir, we can do blunt dissection, and we can, after introducing our 11 mm trocar with the telescope, we can.
What kind of telescope will you use for that?
So,
For creating the space, you will use a 0 degree.
0 degree.
Because you want to see head on, no? You can't move much unless
Yes, sir.
you have created the space. So you'll use a 0 degree 10 millimeter scope for creating the space, and after you've created the space, you change the telescope to a 30 degree.
30 degrees, 30 degrees.
Ah.
Yes.
And then you create the other two ports. What are the
Yes.
positions of those two ports?
So they are both in the midline. One 5 mm port is about 1 centimeters above the symphysis pubis, and the other 5 mm port is midway between the these infraumbilical port and the second port that we have created. Both these ports are created under direct vision from after the first.
So once you have entered that space, again dissection and preperitoneal anatomy will be almost same as
Yes.
TEP, just that you are not inside the peritoneum.
Very
But
good.
during this procedure, if there is an injury to the surgical peritoneum, then what will be the problem that you will face?
Sir, there'll be loss of the preperitoneal space that we've created.
Because gas will leak inside the peritoneum
will
and
leak,
it
yes,
will
sir.
push from behind.
Yes, sir.
It will push from behind.
Push from behind. Yes.
So your space will be compromised. So
Compromised,
whenever
yes.
there is an injury, you have to repair it then and there.
Repair it, yes.
You can't keep it for the end of the piece. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And then you dissect and put in the mesh, much like the tap
Tap
procedure.
procedures. Yes.
Okay. So what about tacking? Sir has already told, but like in tape procedure, what about tacking? Will you do tacking or fixation, or you can do away without? I mean, you can go without any kind of fixation also.
So we can go without any kind of fixation also.
What is a 3D mesh?
3D mesh. Sir, I'm not aware.
It's
Don't
a
know
special
what the
type of
3D is.
contoured mesh created by I have seen one that which is manufactured by Bard company. It is contoured. It is concavo-convex, and it fits with the contour of the abdomen and automatically takes that shape. Now, what is the mechanical advantage of putting a mesh in the preperitoneal space? Mechanical advantage, or say what should I say? Physics wise, if we speak, dynamics or mechanics.
Sir,
So
the
what is the
advantage would
of
be,
putting a mesh in the preperitoneal space vis-a-vis anterior approach?
Sir, the advantage would be that the preperitoneal space is a space that we are creating to place the mesh. Under natural conditions, due to the abdominal pressure, this space would be obliterated. So the mesh would be fixed in its place and would also be supported by the body itself, or by the pressure, the abdominal pressure.
Whenever there is increase in pressure, in intra-abdominal pressure, the different layers of the abdomen will come close to each other, and hence the mesh will have a sandwich effect from both the anterior layer and the posterior layer. Whereas when you're putting it anteriorly,
that will not be the
showing effect. It will kind of be thrown out from it.
Thrown out, yes.
So what are the complications?
Before
One question I've missed, I want to ask, what is the exact plane in which you find the inferior epigastric artery?
Sir, in the preperitoneal plane, sir.
Yes, but it is, there's an entity called vascular space, which is there between the two leaves of the
Fascia transversalis. Fascia transversalis.
That is called vascular space. It houses all the, inferior epigastric vessels and all, which supply the anterior abdominal. Okay, this is what I wanted to ask. Sir, apni kichu question
Milind, you said
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mitra has asked you that if you have a rent in the peritoneum, you lose the peritoneal space. One
Yes, sir.
option is repair the peritoneum.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other option?
Sir, we can introduce a Veress needle into
Yeah.
the peritoneal
So
space and
very
create a
peritoneal cavity,
pneumoperitoneum
this will drain the interval and can get the space. And
space.
if
And
it is difficult to repair or cannot
sir,
make space,
we convert it into a TAP procedure.
PAPP. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. So
That procedure related আর কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করবেন না complications?
complications.
আচ্ছা, okay. You tell us the complications of laparoscopic hernia surgery.
Sir, so the complications
You
first of
can
all, sir,
you can say procedure wise. You can classify like in TAP these are the specific complications. In TEP these are the specific complications and complications which are common to both. You can say like that.
Sir, for TAP, there can be there can be damage to the viscera or vascular damage if we enter into the or if we damage the
First is access complications. Okay.
access.
What are the
Sir,
access complications?
Sir,
Like
access
any other operations.
any other
If you are doing a
laparoscopic surgeries.
TAPP, you are doing pneumoperitoneum, so there are some intrinsic complications of access.
Access.
Like
So while creating the pneumoperitoneum, we can injure the bowel. Sir, while introducing the
injury,
vessel. Bowel
bladder
injury,
injury,
vascular injury.
vascular
Yes,
injury.
vascular injury. So then access related is, so that would be the access related complications.
Next,
So
you're
then
putting so much carbon dioxide. What could that lead to? Complications of carbon dioxide insufflation, which is common to all laparoscopic procedures.
laparoscopic, yes,
I
sir.
hope you know that, so we are not going into the details of that. Next,
So then, sir, in case of TEP, one of the uh, complications which we dissection, sir, I would not say complication, but it is difficult to, the space of operation is lesser in case of TEP, whereas as compared to that TAP, the working space is more.
That is not a complication. That
Yes,
depends
sir,
on
yes,
your
sir.
expertise.
that's difficulty. That is not
Yes, sir.
complication.
Complications. So vascular damage, sir, in case of TAPP or visceral damage. So then,
So okay, access related damage is done. Next, during procedure, you have named so many vessels, so many nerves, so many things.
yes, sir.
Come
So
around.
damage to the external iliac vessels, sir.
There could be torrential bleed. You may have to
Torrential
open
bleeding.
up, and all those things are there.
Yes, sir.
Before
Then
that, common vascular injury is not external iliac. It's very rare.
In inferior epigastric.
Yes, that is one.
yes, what will you do if you have damaged the inferior epigastric artery and have been able to identify that during surgery?
So, try to.
How do you tackle? The bleed from inferior is a very severe bleed. So don't use a unipolar cautery. Either use a bipolar or try to ligate it. Either use a bipolar sealer or ligate it.
Or Hem-o-lok clips, apply Hem-o-lok clips on two sides and cut in between.
Yeah.
Inferior epigastric artery is a branch of which vessel? Why there is torrential bleed? It is a direct branch of
external.
It is a direct branch of
external.
Beyond that, it becomes femoral. And then injury to the testicular vessels.
Yes, sir. Injury to the testicular vessels.
Ischemic orchitis in the post-op period is more common due to injury to which vessel? Testicular artery or something else? I'm giving you leads.
Ischemic orchitis.
Ischemic orchitis is more due to damage to the pampiniform plexus rather than, I mean, when you hear the term ischemic orchitis, you have a tendency to think that maybe testicular artery damage is more responsible for it. But no, pampiniform plexus damage will cause more of ischemic orchitis. How does it present in the immediate post-op period? Testis will be, see, pampiniform plexus has been injured, so there will be congestion.
Swollen.
It will be swollen.
Swollen, painful.
Swollen, tender, painful. Like that. Okay. So that is there. Then apart from that, what are the causes of testicular atrophy?
Sir, Sir, injury to the spermatic cord, sir, other structure of the
Vas
spermatic cord.
vas deferens.
Vas
Injury to the
deferens, yes, sir.
vas deferens,
Vas
very
deferens.
tight mesh fixation around. If it gets entrapped, you know, all the vessels and the structures. If you haven't dissected well, then this will be, you know, kind of tethered to the mesh at some point,
Yes, sir.
and this could give rise to testicular atrophy as well.
Atrophy.
If you have identified an injury to the vas deferens intraoperatively, what can you do?
So, I'm not sure, sir.
If you have taken consent for that initial, you know, prior to surgery, it is fine. But if you haven't taken consent for, you know, ligation or vasectomy, then what do you have to do? You have to resuture.
Yes, sir.
Resuture the two ends, identify the two ends and resuture. Call a neurologist
Yes, sir.
if you're not comfortable. Apart from these, what are the complications, common complications of hernia that we talk of? Like hernia surgery that we talk of.
Sir,
Recurrence,
pain,
Now you
post-operative
tell
pain.
us what is the current body
Nice
of
to touch about
literature.
seroma. Seroma is one of the very
Seroma. How do you avoid seroma? When do you see
Sir,
more of seroma and how do you avoid seroma?
so pardon, when,
In what conditions you see more of seroma and what are the steps that you can take to prevent seroma?
sir, proper total support would prevent seroma, sir.
Does it help that
And
much?
so
What do you do to the pseudosac if it is there?
so this in laparoscopy, sir, we sleeve the sac open so that it
Sometimes-
keeps on draining into the peritoneal
Sometimes
cavity.
I get it to the Cooper's ligament, pseudosac. Okay. Apart from that, how do you manage the patient? Seroma, do you have to do anything actively?
So
Reassurance to the patient that it will get all right, it will get absorbed over time,
yes, sir.
and most of the time it will get absorbed over
Absolutely.
time. Okay. If it is persistent, then you can
Drain.
further do imaging and see what it is, you can aspirate, etc.
Yes,
But that is not required in most of the time. Okay.
yes, sir.
Now, regarding recurrence, what is the current body of literature? Previously, they used to say the recurrence with Lichtenstein hernia repair is 0.4%, and with laparoscopic hernia, they used to say in double-digit recurrence rate. Now, what is the consensus? With more of surgeons getting trained and, you know,
Trained and,
with more exposure to cases. Now they say that if you have done 100 cases,
yes, sir.
there have been 3 studies. Like I'm talking about, say, 3-4 years at that time. 3 studies were there. One said that you need 250 surgeries to be experienced, I mean, to be able to tackle these hernia well by laparoscopic procedure. Then they came down to 100. Now they say between 30 to 100 cases is enough for learning. So, like with, you know, the gradual, so though the learning curve is more steep than open surgery, but with, gradually with more of surgeons getting trained in laparoscopic surgery, the recurrence rates have come down and are comparable with open surgery. So, you cannot cite recurrence as a cause for not choosing laparoscopic procedure in a particular patient. Therein comes the recommendation that even in unilateral procedures, you can choose
Go for laparoscopic
procedure
surgery.
as the procedure of choice. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
On to the minor operation.
Oh,
Even
এটা
if
ভুলেই
that-
গেছিলাম আমি ভুলেই গেছিলাম। Okay, eversion of sac.
Yes, sir.
indication.
Sir,
What are the you tell us what are the steps first?
sir, the anesthesia would be local anesthesia, infiltration of the spermatic cord with 2% lignocaine. Sir, first of all, we stabilize the testes and we stretch the skin, the testes of the affected side, we stabilizes and we stretch the skin over it. So then we give a vertical skin incision.
Make
Pardon,
you
sir?
make a
We
vertical
make, sorry, sir. You make. we make a vertical skin incision. After that, we further deepen the incision and incise the dartos muscle and the spermatic fascia. Then we come to the parietal layer of the tunica vaginalis, which is the layer that forms the the hydrocele sac.
What are the layers of the scrotum?
So the layers of the scrotum, sir, would be skin, external spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia,
After skin, there's dartos.
Dartos, external spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia, internal spermatic fascia, and so then the tunica vagina, so the parietal, so the
Parietal tunica vaginalis.
parietal layer of the tunica vaginalis.
Okay. So you have reached. Then?
Yes, sir. So then, once we have reached this, we bluntly dissect with the finger and create a space between the parietal layer of the tunica vaginalis and the spermatic fascia.
You can use
Yes, sir.
scissors also.
Yes,
Sometimes,
sir.
or if
We
you have
do the
diaphragm, you can use that also. But using diaphragm will cause more of seroma. You can use sharp incision. Then?
So once that is done, we clearly we ascertain whether there is no aberrancy in the anatomy. Mostly the testes and the epididymis lies to the posterior, and anteriorly we have the sac. We make a small puncture and we take the fluid from the hydrocele out. We take it out. After that, we extend the incision that we have made anteriorly, superiorly and inferiorly. Once we have done that, we take the we deliver the testes out and we invert the sac behind the testes. So then we will ligate the sac behind the testes, ensuring that we keep a little space.
What suture do you use? Or what suture do you use?
We can use 1010 chromic catcuts. Chromic catcuts.
I mean, depending on the thickness of the
chromic catcut.
Vaginalis. You can use 2 also if it is thin. If it is very thin, sometimes it's very thin, then you can use finer sutures as well. Okay.
So then we
suppose this tunica vaginalis, this layer is very thick and adherent to the testis. What will you do? Can you always evert?
Sir, no, sir. We can, in that case, we can just plicate it around the base. We can just plicate it around the base using multiple sutures. Like sutures.
What is partial excision of the sac and of the tunica vaginalis?
So partially
excise whichever part can be excised, and whatever raw margin is there, you just overrun with sutures. Okay, what is Jaboulet's technique?
So this eversion of sac is known as Jaboulet's technique. Previously,
some aspirations and all used to be done for hydrocele.
So, but they lead to recurrence.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if suppose you are operating in the minor OT and you have diagnosed a case as hydrocele, you have opened up and now you see it is a testicular tumor, what will you do?
Sir, in that case,
it is a testicular tumor or maybe a testicular tumor associated with a secondary hydrocele. About 7% cases of testicular tumor is associated with a secondary hydrocele. Suppose it is that kind of case. So what will you do?
Sir, if we are able to identify it before opening the before opening the hydrocele sac, so then we will not be we will not puncture the sac with the fear of seeding of the malignant cells.
Abandon the procedure, admit the patient and plan for elective surgery. But you've already made an incision in the scrotum. Is that incision enough to tackle the testicular tumor? How do you remove the testis in case of a testicular tumor? You do a high inguinal orchidectomy. An inguinal approach. And you have made an incision in the scrotum. So if you have made an incision in the scrotum and tried to access through it, so you revise the margins also of the scrotum. Okay. What is Shivasu's maneuver?
So which
Shivasu's maneuver for testicular tumor?
I'm not.
Suppose you have opened up this hydrocele sac and then you are having a doubt that this could be a testicular tumor, maybe it is not a testicular tumor. Then what they say is you take control of the testicular vessels and then you cut open the testis, inspect the surface, and if there is tumor, obviously you treat it like a tumor. If there is no tumor, you repair the tunica albuginea. You repair the tunica albuginea and proceed with the hydrocele procedure. Now, suppose there is a bilateral hydrocele. How do you approach? Incision wise. How do you make the incision? What are the various options? If there is bilateral hydrocele,
So we can approach both of them one by one. So
one by one with two separate
two separate
vertical
incisions.
that is
Two
there.
separate incisions.
Two more options are there, or maybe more options could be there, but I know two more options. You can go through one vertical incision, access the hydrocele on one side, operate it. Now through the median septum, you cut that open, deliver the testis from the opposite side through the opening that you have made in the median raphe or median septum, and then do the procedure, put back the testis into the cavity, repair the median septum. But the problem is when you cut the median septum, there is bleeding.
Bleeding. Yes.
Controlling bleeding becomes difficult. So, and mostly you will be doing such procedures in the minor OT where you may not have energy sources also. So, I mean, if you are doing it in elective, then it's fine. Otherwise, in minor OT, you should not venture this. And the other option is you can go through a big transverse incision, raise flaps, and then beneath the skin, you approach through
separate
vertical incision. So on the skin, there will be one incision. Okay. So when you are repairing after operation, after you have put the testis back, what will you do after you put the testis back?
So we have to ensure that the testis is placed in the correct fashion and there is no torsion. For this, sir, first of all, handling of the testis should be delicately done and we should not be moving it around too much. Secondly, the head of the epididymis is superiorly and the sinus of the epididymis is laterally or towards the surgeon.
This you have done. Then do you put in a drain?
Sir, if we have done too much dissection or if we are not sure about that we have not been able to secure completely all bleeders, then we can put in a small corrugated rubber drains.
Sir, আমরা তো মোটামুটি সব কেসেই দিই তো মানে is it not safer than?
No, if you are doing a right plane dissection, if you're in the right plane subdartos area, there is no bleeding, so drain is optional. So it's not routine to put a drain.
ঠিক আছে.
What is the Lord's
corrugated এর বদলে আপনি suction drain ও use করেন?
Is not required for hydrocele. What is Lord's operation, Milind?
Sir, Lord's plication, sir. In case of sir, it is a method where sir the sac is just plicated at the root of
open up the sac
and we
and plicate the margins so that the sac
the space is obliterated.
The sac curls up around the testis. So it's not a eversion, it's just a plication of the
plication.
What is hydrosilectomy?
Hydrosilectomy.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm not aware, sir.
So these are not done routinely, but if you have a very large, thick sac, in that case, you can consider doing. Sometimes you have very large hydrocele, so if you're doing a eversion, you put a huge bulk in the scrotum. So in that case, you can excise part of the sac.
Part of the sac in
hydrosilectomy. But problem is bleeding and post-hematoma. So it's not a routine procedure, but there is a term called hydrosilectomy also. Okay.
And when you are repairing, how do you do it? Do you directly repair the skin or do it in layers?
No, sir. First the dartus muscle and sperm. So the underlying layers will be first repaired with a continuous suture, and then sir the skin is repaired, which can be repaired by a subcuticular suture or an interrupted mattress suture.
Okay. So I must congratulate Dr. Milind. He is a first year DNB PGT. He came as replacement for the person who was supposed to present. You presented very well. So that is how you should proceed with the operative steps. Okay. You can be allowed to describe the whole operative steps, but Dr. Mitra has taken you through each of the steps. So you should be very clear about describing each of the steps. So you have done very good. So as first year DNB PGT is very good. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Any comment?
Very well done. Very well done. You have covered almost everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It's very clear that you have prepared yourself and come. examiner needs to have that feel only that this student has prepared and he has come.
And he has assisted or performed that operation. That is also important. He can have the practical tips. Dr. Maiti, any comment?
Thank you, Professor Saha.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to Milind and Dr. Dhitiman. Very nice to see Dhitiman in the screen. They have performed the session very nicely. And one or two comments I like to make.
Yeah.
In the placement of the mesh, difference between the open technique or anterior and the posterior technique, one of the basic difference is the placement of the mesh. It is well discussed, but Milind, always remember in
Yes, sir.
laparoscopic repair, the mesh is placed behind the fossa transversalis. But in the anterior approach, the relation, whatever may be the technique, the placement of the mesh is always anterior to the fossa transversalis.
Yes.
And all the complications have been discussed very well and elaborately. And another very funny complication, you may use the term mesoma. Mesoma. When the fixation is not proper, the mesh may roll upon itself and may produce a hard mass anywhere in the groin. And that is a funny complication that should be remembered, that is mesoma. And in regarding the eversion of the sac, one interesting question or jamai thokano question bolle ja bojay. It is an old operation which may be forgotten, but as a student, when we are the MS student, even in the Belly Labs book, that operation was there in the name of an Indian surgeon, Sharma's operation. What is that for small?
Sharma and Johar.
Bolo?
Sharma and Johar.
Sharma and Jahar.
So that is the operation where eversion of sac is not done, but the testis along with the sac is mobilized and placed in the extradatus pouch. That is outside the other deeper layers of the
Deeper.
fossa, but inside the skin, deep to the skin. Okay, those are the things I like to make comment.
Thank you.
Dr. Acharji, any comment? Dr. Maiti, Dr. Acharji, I think, Dr. Acharji, any comment?
Yes, I just want to point out two things. One for Milind, I think, because it has been mentioned that you can use an anatomic mesh, and if you are planning to make an anatomic mesh, make sure to get one for the side, because right-sided mesh needs a right-sided hernia needs a right-sided mesh, and
Yeah.
the mesh it's a left-sided hernia needs a left-sided mesh. They are different actually. That is one. And secondly, while doing an eversion of sac, the important steps he has mentioned, but one practical step is that if the sac is big and pliable, at times after eversion, there's an outpouching at the upper pole. Unless you pull it down and make flat, there is a tendency to for fluid to be accumulated there, leading to post-operative collection inside a small hydrocele, inside that pouch. So one must pull it down and make the whole sac everted.
মিস কল আসলে রিয়াকশন কথা বলবে তো
Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Maiti,
you,
what
sir.
I'm feeling is that in the operating session, can I include a video? Once a candidate describe the steps, can you have a video presentation on the particular step? I was thinking that will make clear the steps.
Professor
What do you
Saha,
think?
very nice suggestion.
Very well.
You please do. And another suggestion is that throughout this session of more than 1 hour, I found that Milind is remaining very, very busy with all the rifles and questions from Dr. Dhitiman. So instead of giving the task to one student, and if there are 3 operations, please distribute it into 2 or 3 students.
Okay.
That would be better. And short video if it is there, that should be very short instead of video.
Even you can play a YouTube
with
video.
the
You don't have
images.
a presenter. You can play a YouTube
Instead of video,
that
as the
has
video
silent
takes
steps
lot
are
of
shown.
time, you can place the images only. Instead
Let
of
us place the video, and then student will be answering like as he does in examination.
that
And
is
then put a video that these are the salient steps of this operation. I was thinking like that. So otherwise, the session becomes more of
edited short
technical
videos.
discussion.
That will be good.
Let's see from next time you can do it or not. Okay, thank you, Dhitiman. Thank you very much for the nice session. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Okay, we conclude.